Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Transitions Collective. I'm your host, Mary Clavier. This week, I'm speaking with Alexis Haselberger, who is a time management and productivity coach. Alexis and I dive deep into her tips and tricks and thoughts around all things time management. So how you're looking at your calendar, what type of relationship you have with time, and even get into some details about what type of person you are and how that can impact your day and your schedule. So tune into this episode. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Alexis. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited for you to be here and for us to talk about time management.
Me too. It's my favorite subject.
Good. Yes, it's a super important topic, and I'm really excited to dig into all the details. But first, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a time management and productivity coach. I work with people individually. I work with people in groups to do coaching around how do you spend your time on the right things? How do you remove from your life what you don't need in there? How do you make room for the stuff that you do want? And how do you decrease stress at the same time? I also do corporate workshops. So people bring me in to do, 2-hour workshop, 4-hour workshop to come in and really get all the basics in one go.
Yes. Okay. I'm so excited because I feel like so many people talk about time and never having enough time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time for this or that. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that and how and what your perspective of time is. And then we can kind of get into time management and tips and tools.
Yeah. Awesome.
So generally, what are some of the most important aspects, would you say, to time management as it relates to running a business?
Yeah. So, I think time management as it relates to running a business and yourself running businesses is that we always have about 1 million ideas of all the things that we could be doing, right?
Yes.
And we have lists of those ideas and we can feel ourselves spread very thin. As we go for a run and we come back from a run, we have 5 more business ideas that we want to do, right?
Yes.
And so I think the biggest thing, both in your business and at home, is just about attention management as well. So choosing specifically what are the things that we're going to be working on for any given period of time. So, maybe we're setting quarterly goals or maybe we're just setting weekly goals. It doesn't really matter what the time frame is, as long as we're making sure that we are looking at all the available things that we could be doing and honing in on the ones that are going to be the most impactful for us in the interim, essentially.
Yes.
So I think, that is kind of philosophy at a big level, right? I think time is a finite resource, right? And so we can either remove stuff from our plate or we can do stuff more efficiently. Usually it's a combo of both, but the one thing we can't do is make more time, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I've actually been getting into, and we can speak maybe a little bit to calendar management also, because I've been trying some new things for my calendar. Because I think something that a lot of, especially, it relates to home too. So I won't say like just business, but with running your business and trying to figure out like how to prioritize, what do you do first or second? And then at the end of the day, you're like, wait, what did I do with my day?
Yes. I have a phrase for that. It's called letting the day happen to you.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's super common, right? It's like
Right.
we're busy all day long. And then we get to the end of the day and we're like, wait, I didn't even finish the thing that I set out to do. Right.
Right.
So I have a couple of tips for that, right? I think the first one is whatever the most important thing of your day is, like whatever, or the thing you're dreading, whatever that thing is that you're worried about, just do that thing first. And do it, which is, we call that eating the frog, right? But we also want to do that, I think, before checking email and messages and that sort of thing, because I think what happens is that the second we check messages, even if we decide that we're not going to, focus on that right now, if we just check our email, we're in bed, get our phone out, check your email, that derails your day because immediately you're at the mercy of other people's priorities. And the reality is that if you just start from there, you may never get to that important thing. But if you spend an hour or 2 hours in the morning before checking messages on the most important things, then you'll get those done. And also, it doesn't matter if you email somebody at 10 a.m. or 8 a.m., right? Like in
Right.
most
Right.
cases, it doesn't make any difference, right?
Right.
And so I think that's super key, and putting that on your calendar in like a time blocking way, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that you have committed to doing that, I think can be really important too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, it's very hard to do that.
It is. It
It seems
is.
like a big training. I have to be honest, I've tried it a couple times here and there, like in the morning, because I sleep with my phone in airplane mode.
Hmm.
And so a few times I've tried, like, okay, just don't even turn on your phone.
Right.
Like, I need to get up and get the girls ready and then start my day so I can check things like after that. But it's very difficult to do in this world when
Yes.
you're like used to all of these things coming at you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that sometimes we need like baby steps to help us get to a place. And so sometimes
Yeah.
what I'll suggest to people, if that's just really hard for them, or I mean, some people have jobs where there could be like real true emergencies, right?
Right,
Like
right,
you're working in PR, or like,
right,
there are lots of things where, I
right,
mean, I guess the word emergency, right? So that's not life or death, but like, very
right.
important to be timely,
Yeah.
right? And
Time
so for
sensitive
those,
things.
for
Yeah.
those people, I would suggest, okay, for like a couple of weeks, check your messages, but just do a quick scan for emergencies and then put it away, right? And
Okay.
then after a couple of weeks, just keep track of how many emergencies did you have to deal with,
Mm,
right? Like how many
yeah.
things you really have to deal with, because I think that can help us feel less anxious about, oh, we might miss something, right?
Right,
And
right.
if you get to the end of 2 weeks and you say, well, I didn't actually have any emergencies I had to deal with at 8 a.m., then you can feel more comfortable about pushing it to 9 a.m. or,
Right.
maybe even
Right.
10 a.m., right?
Yeah. Oh, that's a very good point. I like that as a baby step.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have to convince ourselves, like when we're living in one modality, right? It's hard to just, jump ship and move to another modality.
Right, right. Like, yeah, like it's like quitting something cold turkey, or like saying I'm going to start working out now and then like I'm going to go from no workouts to like 5 times a week. Like,
Right, exactly.
that's
And
just not
like the goal is to reduce anxiety, not to
right,
increase it, right, in the
right,
interim.
right. But I have, so so in terms of the calendar, just based on what you said about time blocking, do you also time block for time to check email, for
I
example?
do. Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, my calendar, you probably think I'm a crazy person if you see my calendar, but I'm pretty much time blocked with my intentions
Okay.
for,
Yeah.
my entire workday, and
Yeah.
really through dinner time, through like obligation time.
Yeah.
I've really blocked it out. Now, so I will put blocks in there for email/quick task is what I call it.
Oh,
So
okay.
like
Oh, yeah.
processing email slash, all those little things that we have in
Yeah.
our businesses. It's like follow up with so-and-so, return this
Right.
phone call, like all of that stuff. So
Right.
I'll block, 2 to 3 times a day to handle that
Okay.
stuff. So I'm not checking email in the interim. And then
Right.
I'll block like the big projects, or, if I have to spend, or I want to spend a significant amount of time on something, I'll block out when I intend to do
Yeah.
that.
I actually started that in these last few weeks. I was like, okay, so something needs to change, So I
Right.
started doing the time blocking, and I block it even per business, so it's color
Yeah.
coded on my
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I agree. Like I have color coding for my meetings and things are one color. And then
Okay.
the time that, like what I call just my time blocking calendar, like the things that nobody else is going to see, it's not going to block my
Right.
calendar. I have that be a separate color so that I
Okay.
can kind of know instinctually what's movable and what's not.
Oh, right. That's a good
Um,
idea. Yeah.
and so I think that helps a lot too. And I think too, like one thing to point out with time blocking is that a lot of people, this I hear a lot, like people say time blocking doesn't work for me. And when I dive deeper on that, the reason is almost always because I can't stick to it.
Mm,
Like I put this plan in place and then I don't stick to the plan, right?
yeah.
And I think that we need to take a step back a little bit and just think, look, time blocking is more about intention than it is about sticking to the plan, right?
Yeah.
It's much more about reminding yourself that this is what I intended to do. And so if I find myself being sidetracked, this is a good reminder to come back to what I was planning
Yeah. That's a good, and it also takes practice, right? Like it's like you can't just all of a sudden be blocking your calendar and scheduling everything out and expect to just hit it all right away.
Right. And humans are terrible time estimators. And so just because we put some amount of time in there, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we're going to be at that, like,
Right.
we're not going to necessarily fit that every time. Sometimes we're going to be,
Right.
most of the time we're going to be over. Sometimes
Over.
we're going to be
Right.
under, right?
Right. Right.
But
Definitely.
you do get better at estimating over time, because I think you can see, not that you actually get better at the estimating part, but you get better at knowing like, okay, I always block an hour for a blog post. It always takes me an hour and a half. So I better just block an hour and a half going forward, you know?
Right. Like certain things, certain tasks, you might, need more time to get into them. Yeah. For me, like writing like a post or something, it takes me a little bit for my mind to even get in the right spot.
Right, exactly. And so I think you kind of learn that over time, and then your time blocking becomes more and more honed and easier to use once you kind of learn what those methods are and sort of what that calculation is for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I know I found for me that just practicing each week has been helpful to get used to knowing like what I might be able to do or not. And I don't know if you see this for people too, but I always try to like jam pack too many things. Right?
With no buffer time at all.
No buffer time, and like it gets ugly. It gets ugly. So I don't know if you see that a lot too with people, but just like thinking like setting these these high expectations of, okay, well, it's Monday, I'm going to get like and like list off 10 things, but really like, no, that's not realistic.
Yes, I see that all the time. And I think that a big piece of my coaching practice is actually just talking to people about realism, right? Like, because when we want to get to a point, right, where we can know what we have to do, look at our calendars, overlay those on each other, and like just be okay with the fact that if we have back-to-back meetings all day on Wednesday, we're definitely not going to get any of our tasks done on Wednesday, right? So we shouldn't even schedule anything then, because all we're going to do is check our email. Like if we have back-to-back meetings, the only thing we're going to do is check our email. And we don't want to believe that, but when you start to be realistic about it, you feel more accomplished, less kind of bad about yourself, right? Because if you put even if you kind of realize that it wasn't realistic, you still feel bad about the things you didn't get to, right? And so I think it's a huge part of it is knowing how much time do we actually have. Meetings, let's take out the meetings. Let's take out, we know it takes us 2 hours to handle our email a day or whatever that is. Now, what can we actually get done in a day? And only putting those things, maybe being a little bit overambitious, right, is okay. Like having a couple of extra nice to haves on there is great. But we don't want to find ourselves in that situation where like we had 10 things on the list and just absolutely no time to do them, because that's not realistic.
No, and you feel terrible. You're exactly right about that. You feel terrible when you can't get it done.
Right. And then you have this, I always like to say, let's banish the overdue task, right? Because like if you didn't get to something, the only time you're going to get it done is the future, right? And so you have to just reschedule that at some time in the future, instead of just leaving it hanging out up there with like a big red exclamation point next to it, right?
Like looming ahead of you.
Right. Because maybe it's not the most important thing today, right? Like sometimes, if we're properly prioritizing, the things we didn't get to should be the least important things. And, maybe that's not the most important thing. Maybe we need to push it to next week because what we've got on our plate today is more important than that.
Right. And how about, so do you look on a daily basis, or do you plan your week on like the weekend or Monday morning or something like that? I'd love to hear how you tackle some of that.
Yeah. So I think planning is incredibly important, saves tons of time, and it also decreases anxiety and stress. And I think it's best to do at the end of the day for the next day, and then at the end of the week for the next week. And the reason that I think this is, if you spend 10 minutes at the end of your day kind of, checking off what you did, making sure to update things, looking at your day for tomorrow, making sure your list is now realistic. If you've gotten 2 more meetings since you made your list, right? Like making sure that it's realistic, then you can actually shut down your work brain and go into being present in whatever you do when you're not at work. So, whether you're with your family or whether you don't have kids, but you're doing, like you have soccer practice or whatever, right? Like we've all got stuff that isn't work that we want to be doing, presumably. And being able to sort of close out at the end of the day and reprioritize for tomorrow lets you really be able to shut down and be present for the other things and not fall asleep with that like anxiety of what do I need to do. And then it also has like the double duty effect of, in the morning when you get to work or you sit down at your desk, you just have a prioritized list that you can work from. You don't have to spend that first 15 minutes that we usually do, like open up our laptop and think like, okay, what should I work on first?
Right. Right.
And then you finish that task and you're like, what should I do next? Right.
Right.
So yeah, I think like that daily prioritization at the end of the day is really important for me. And then for a weekly, I say like the last half hour of your Friday or whatever the last day of your week is, taking a broader look at the week ahead also, and saying like, okay, does my task list look reasonable compared to the time I have right now? Because, you know, one thing that people do is just push everything to the next Monday, right? And so then you look at your list and it's like, I got 85 things for Monday and 2 for Tuesday, right?
Right. And you think that it can just like keep rolling itself over, but no,
Right.
it becomes very stressful.
Right, exactly. And so like taking that, you know, there was a recent study done that said that planning is as effective as meditation and deep breathing at stress relief.
Oh, cool.
And so I love that
Good.
stuff.
That's good to
Yeah,
know.
right. Because it means that like, and if you're not a planner, it means there's something you can do that is both productive and stress reducing, right?
Right. That's true. Yeah. Actually, I really like that idea of looking at the end of the day for the next day, because I think you're right. Like otherwise your brain doesn't really turn off.
Yeah.
So then it's like you're going to bed and you're like, okay, what am I going to do tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hadn't really thought about it like that. I mean, I do planning on Sunday night, and then I kind of see each morning it's ready for me, but I really like that to kind of close out the day and the work side.
Yeah, good. Yeah, try it out and let me know what you think. I
That's
really
cool.
like that process.
That's cool. I like that. Okay, how about tools that you use? What kind of tools do you like to use? I feel like we're in like, you know, productivity overload with so many different apps and calendar things and whatever. What are some of your favorite ones?
Yeah, so I try to keep it pretty simple. I think having a task management system is totally essential. I call it a single trusted system. So you want to have one place where you store all the tasks. Because what I found is that like, you know, if you're using your email as a task list and you also have a paper list somewhere and you have a notebook somewhere else and you've got stuff in Evernote and, you know, maybe you're using a task app, it's just too much, right? You can't prioritize that. Like if you're going to all these different places, you're context switching all the time and you're not really you're seeing like all the individual trees, but you're not seeing the forest at all. And so I think that having one central place to put those is great. One that I always recommend to my clients is called TickTick.
Okay.
It's an app that is, you know, there's a free version of it that works great. And
how do you spell it?
TickTick.
Okay. I wasn't sure with the C's and the K's. Yeah.
Everyone wants to say TikTok, but no, it's TickTick. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great one because it's really simple. It allows you to be able to put things in different, you know, in different categories if you want to, and see like a nice, easy date list of like, this is the stuff I have to work on today. This is what I have to work on tomorrow, etc.
Okay.
So I think that's incredibly important. Having a central location for all the tasks and all the things is super key. Other tools that I use, I love Wave apps for accounting.
Okay.
I think that works really well for being able to, you know, from both a business and time reduction standpoint, like I can invoice my clients and I don't have to follow up with reminders because it automatically sends out reminders.
That's nice.
And like, Calendly is a huge one too for me.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, for most small business owners, I think too.
Yeah.
And I use it not only for like booking with clients, but just anytime we're having a meeting, I use that instead of kind of suggesting some times. And then, you know, they say, well, I'm not available at those times. What about these times, you know?
Right. Because like in corporate, when you use Outlook and you can see like colleague calendars, like that's one thing because you can just see everyone's at the same time. But when you're working with all different people outside of a singular system,
and lots of people, like even when I was working in corporate, people like don't book travel time on their calendars necessarily, right? And so you would sometimes like make a meeting with them and they're like, I can't do that because I am going to be traveling. And you're like, you know, so I think I love Calendly for that because it lets you put in the different buffers. So it's like, if I'm having an in-person meeting with someone, I can send them the in-person link that's going to leave me a buffer of an hour on either side for travel. And like, I think that's really useful.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then Google Calendar, obviously.
Right.
Makes the world go around, right?
Right. So you use your task list with TickTick in conjunction with then putting it into your actual calendar.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't block everything out, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not blocking every task out. It's just
Right.
kind of the big stuff and then the
Yeah.
blocks of emails / quick tasks.
Right. Like either projects or like bigger goals that
Yeah.
you're
Like
working
where,
on that have
mhm,
milestones or something.
exactly. And so, yeah, because I think that the other thing too is, it's important to have these systems, but you also don't want to have the overhead and the upkeep of them be high, because if you do, then you'll stop using them. Like people stop using
Right.
them if
Right.
they're not easy,
Oh
right?
yeah. It's like one day and then like out the window.
Right. And also people always are like, no, I got too busy to use my system. And it's like, no, you have to double down on the system when you get too busy.
Yeah. Double down, double down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Okay. I want to ask you also, switching gears a little bit,
Yeah.
but your perspective on time and how it relates to like, do you get up early in the morning? Because like a lot of people say like wake up an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier and get like your most important things done. But I know you have a different perspective on that. And I'd love
Yes.
if you could share with the audience.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this.
Yeah.
So, at a kind of broader level, I approach all of my coaching clients as complete individuals, right? I think everybody is totally different.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that, not every book, app, et cetera, out there is just the silver bullet, right?
Right.
And it's often because things are, we have different personalities, different constraints, et cetera, and we all have different body clocks, right?
Right.
And so, for me, I am a night person. I've been that way my whole life. There have been times in my life, of course, when I had small babies or when, I, certain obligations or jobs where I had to wake up early, and you're able to force yourself to do that for some short period of time. But the reality is, like, you don't change your body clock, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, right? We are who we are. We have the kind of internal clocks. And so I think it's much more important to actually wake up when your body, as close to when your body wants to wake up as possible, to start your day at a time when it makes sense for you. So that you can get that, do the most important things first thing in the day. But for some people, first thing in the day is going to be 5 a.m. For some people, it's going to be 8 a.m.
Yeah.
For me, as a night person, I am never going to wake up at 5 a.m. and like be ready and focused and, like just ready to work. Like
I can't.
That doesn't happen, right?
Well, maybe I shouldn't say can't, but I choose not to because it's
right. Because you're foggy and like,
right.
and because your brain wants to be asleep then, right?
Right.
Whereas like people who are true morning people, and it's about 30 to 40% of the population that are morning people, and everyone else is somewhere in between. But the world is built for morning people, right? It's like school starts early, work starts early. And so there's, we only have so much control, right? When we work for ourselves, we have a little bit more control. When we work for, a flexible company who offers flexible work hours, we can, control that a little bit.
Right.
Sometimes, you're just in the situation you're in and there's not a lot you can do except for kind of look for a situation that better matches your own personal timing. But I think there's no difference between someone who gets up at 5 a.m. and does their meditation then when they feel good about it, and somebody who wakes up at 9 a.m. and does their meditation then, or who says like, no, I feel better doing meditation at 11 p.m. Right? It's all just about knowing your own body clock.
Right. I mean, actually, you reminded me of a good point. It's even for my two girls, so they have to get up and get ready for school at the same time.
Yeah.
My one daughter is like always up, like on time or like before when she needs to be up, like by maybe 10 minutes, she's there. The other one, I mean, she could be in bed like at least 20 minutes more, like at least. And sometimes and they go to bed at the same time at night, like they go to bed together, but one of them is clearly like, I can wake up early. And the other one is like, don't bother me.
Right. No, it's the same thing with my kids. Like I have one of my kids, he's just never needed that much sleep. Like even when he was a little kid was always staying up to like 10, 11 p.m. reading. And I have another kid who, from the time he was 2 at 6:45, as soon as dinner was finished, he'd be like, time for bed.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, time for bed, And so, you're right. You totally see it coming out even when they're little. And I don't think that changes, right? Like over time. It's very difficult to become what we're not.
Right.
So the way I work is to make sure that we build systems around who people are already instead of trying to change who they are, because that doesn't work in the long run.
Right. And like, just leveraging what you can. Okay, so for a morning person, they can just get up early and do all of their things. And you're
Mhm.
saying for someone that maybe needs more sleep to just kind of know which hours they would be more productive, right? Is
Right.
what it
And
comes down to.
yeah, yeah, to sort of watch your patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
See what, like, know when you're lethargic, know when you're focused, kind of watch your patterns and maybe track it for a couple weeks to see. And
Mm-hmm.
then, see what's in your control, right?
Right.
Sometimes if we're working in a service related job, we might not have a lot of control. And so our options might be then like, make sure that your morning routine is as streamlined as possible, right? Like make the lunches
Yeah.
for the kids the night before, set out your clothes the night before, shower at night, do all this
Yeah.
stuff so that you can sleep as late as possible in the morning, right?
Right.
If your job is more flexible, then you might be able to say like, hey, I'd really like to come in from, 10 to 7 instead of from, 8 to 5.
Yeah.
And or maybe you're at the beginning stages of your career, you don't know what you want to do yet, and maybe you can find a job that's like more in line with your hours that work well for you. So if you're
Right.
a night person, maybe you are interested in working as a bartender or a chef or something that
Right.
has night hours, right?
Right. Right. Or even as an entrepreneur, maybe just knowing when those hours are and
Right.
scheduling your work like
Exactly.
around that.
Yeah, like we all have sort of brain dead times, right?
Yeah.
Like we all have those times, and it's like there are, maybe you can take a nap, maybe you can go for a walk, whatever, to bring your energy back up.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like, nope, I'm just going to do the filing because like I
Right.
don't need to think
Right.
to do this, right?
Right.
And I
Like
got
I
to make
know,
sure to write at a different time.
right. Like I know there's certain times of the day I absolutely cannot write. It's like,
Right.
it's like, nope, just
Right.
can't do
So
that.
don't try, right? Like
Right.
you know
Right.
that about yourself. So like
Right.
don't make it harder on you.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that because I think it's tough. Like when, there's like so much noise and I think so, what works for some people, it works for them and that's great. But I think people need to be reminded of figuring out what works for them.
Right. Yeah, because that's the only way you make these things stick, right?
Yeah.
Is that you find
Right.
something that fits who you are. I mean, it's kind of like we wouldn't wear ill-fitting clothes and like expect to be comfortable all day
Right.
long, right?
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing about the processes that we put around us.
Yeah. And okay, there was another because I follow you on your blog,
Oh, thanks.
and there was another really interesting topic that you talked about that I thought about even for my own like life and running my business and everything, and that was around what type of learner you are. Like
Yeah.
there were like three choices: auditory, or maybe the other one was visual, and something
Kinetic.
else. So
Yeah.
I took kinetic, yeah. So I took the little quiz. And I found it very interesting, the fact that depending how you learn, then you can apply it in different ways for how you work. So could you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that, like the general premise and
Yeah.
maybe, a tip on each learning style?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, I mean, we've all probably took some learning style quiz in high school or something, and it's usually with the
Maybe.
purpose of like, how do you study best,
Oh,
right? Or
right.
like, how do you retain information?
Right. That would have been
Um,
good for me to know back then. I don't think I really paid attention. Yeah.
right. Yes, as
Would
many
have
of
been
us didn't,
helpful.
right?
Right.
But yeah, and so I think there are really three styles of learning or info processing, right? That's another way to think of it. Not at work, we're not always hopefully we're learning, but we're not always learning. So sometimes it's just like processing the information, right?
Okay. Oh,
And
yeah. Good
so
point.
there's an auditory learner or info processor. So people who just are faster and better at taking information in through their ears,
Okay.
right? There's
Right.
visual people. And, funnily enough, I think like most people think they're visual learners, and then they take the quiz and they find that some of them are and some of them aren't. But I
Yeah.
think, a lot of people think they're visual learners, and, many people are. And visual learners really, they need to see it, right? They need to have something in front of them. So this is like me, I'm a total visual learner and I'm not auditory. So
Oh,
anytime
okay.
somebody is like giving me directions to driving directions,
Oh, yeah.
I've learned that I just immediately tune out and smile and nod because like I need to see it on the
And then
Google
you get
Maps.
lost.
Yeah, well, I was like Google Maps are great now because like
Right, right.
but
Sure.
I've just learned that like I'm not going to retain anything that they're
Right,
telling me like that. So
right.
just don't even try. And then there's kinetic learners who really are processing information via tactile modes, right? So movement or touching, etc. These are people who
Okay,
like
right.
use
Right.
fidget spinners to concentrate,
Yeah.
et cetera. So, I mean, giving just an example of this, from each level, like think about, phone calls and meetings and things, right? An auditory learner or an auditory info processor is someone who's like probably going to be helped by being on the phone and closing their eyes. So they're kind of limiting the visual distraction, right? They're able to
Okay.
hear what's coming in.
Yep.
Somebody who is a visual learner is going to hear and understand best doing what we're doing right now, being on video, right?
Yeah.
Like we can see each other, we can see each
Okay.
other's facial features, like we can
Yep.
see expressions, etc. And kinetic people, sometimes they don't know they're kinetic, but these are the people who are always pacing around while they're on the phone, right?
Okay.
So
I
like they
found that
don't
one
even know.
funny. And I
Yeah,
was like, but I can totally say, I know some people
yeah,
that would do that at my office. They would just
yeah.
be on the phone and walk around in circles.
Right. And like they don't know, like
Okay.
I don't think most people are like, oh, I'm a kinetic person and that's why I'm doing this. But
Oh,
that's
right.
what I see. It's like that movement is helping them think through and talk through. And it's like, when you have sometimes you have a great business idea when you're washing dishes and not thinking about anything else because you're just kind of
Right.
moving your body. Like kinetic people experience that a lot more.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Oh,
so,
I read an article once, or I heard an interview, Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx.
yes.
I love her. I'm a big fan. Um, she gets her best ideas when she's driving around in the car.
Right. Or in the
So she
shower
like,
a lot, right?
yeah, and she like makes like a fake commute to like drive to her and just spends like a half hour at least in the car, like
Oh,
every morning
interesting.
to like figure out her ideas.
Interesting to get the ideas
I don't
flowing.
know what driving would, I mean, it's movement, but it's also looking around.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe
I'm
it's a
not, yeah, that's an
combo.
interesting one. I'm not sure where that fits in,
Yeah.
but I love the
That's
fact that
funny.
she's found the strategy that works for her, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
to me, it's like not everyone's going to fit in neatly into any box, but like
Right.
she's found a strategy that works for her, no matter what the name of that strategy is.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And paying attention. Right. I think one of the things is just paying attention to like what works for you.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Like as in the, infamous words of Peter Drucker, what gets measured gets managed, right?
Right.
And I think that that's true of a lot of this stuff around productivity and time management. Like, when I work with clients, the very first thing that we do is they track their time for a week, like they're
Mm,
all of it from the
right.
time they wake up to the time they go to
Right.
sleep,
Right.
so that we can actually see what we're working with, right?
Right.
What are you actually doing? Where is your time going? Because often our sense of where our time's going is
Oh,
very
it's like
different than the reality of where our
very
time is
different.
going, right?
Yes. I got that app Moment, and it like
Yeah.
tracks your time.
Yes.
Holy moly, yeah. You don't
Right.
think you're on your phone nearly as much as Moment tells you you are.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. And also because our phones have become this, it's
Right.
like this automatic response where we went in there to
Right.
look for something and like 45 minutes later, like we're totally
Right.
up to date on Facebook, but
Right.
we didn't
And
actually do
plus
what we
you
intended to
can, yeah. I mean, and I like to think sometimes I'm actually doing work with it too, maybe, but I think that's a
do.
stretch. But like you can access like your
Right.
Google Docs or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a little bit I have found that interesting that I've been now that I've been tracking that.
Yeah. And it just it's just awareness too, right? It's
Right.
like the awareness of
Totally.
anything that we're doing.
Yes. Yes. It's
Like,
not meant to be like, okay, like let's be stringent now or something. It's more just to know what
yeah.
am I doing? Where's my time? Like what? Yeah, exactly.
Right. And what's the balance for each person, right? Because like some people, like work-life balance is not 50-50, right? It's like,
Yes, right. Totally.
it's different at different times for different people. It's different at
Yes.
different phases in life. Like it's just, certain people have more desire to work longer hours. And so the balance for them may be different than the balance
Yes.
for someone else. And so, yeah, I tend to shy away from, recommendations that are like, we should be doing X for X amount of time, et cetera, because I think
Yeah.
that doesn't respect the reality of the fact that we're all individuals who have different ways of looking
Right.
at things.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. I really enjoyed this, Alexis. Thank you very much for all of those tips and insights, especially because I think time management is such a topic that, I mean, people, I think they get overwhelmed by, but really all the things that you said today are super practical, and it's just more of like, it seems like a practice over time,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
And
it's
like
just something
nothing,
you like try to improve on.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It's an iterative process. That's what I
Yeah.
tell all of my clients is like, we're not going to solve this in one session. We're not going
Right.
to solve it over, like
Right.
we're going to come up with a good plan, and you're going to experiment with things, and you're going to try things out. And eventually over time, you're going to hone a process that's like a well-tuned machine for you.
Right. Right. I love that. Yeah. And you have a group coaching program coming up, right? Can you
I
tell us a
do.
little bit about that?
Yeah. So I am actually going to, for the first time, I'm going to be taking my individual coaching program and turning it into a group program.
Awesome.
So we'll have community aspect as well in there, which will be
Yeah.
great. And so essentially this is my Take Control of Your Time program, which is a 4-month program where we learn each session a different aspect of time management. So one week we'll be really diving into planning. Another week we'll be diving into our tools and like, how do we use email and Slack and all of that the most efficiently for us, et cetera. There's, quote, homework in between to help people iterate on and actually put into practice, right? Because we can't just talk about it and then do nothing. Right.
And it's that accountability.
And the accountability, for each other, and a community for people to kind of troubleshoot this stuff together. So I'm really excited to be offering this as a group. And I will continue to do that if it goes well.
Yeah. And where can people find more information about that?
So on my website, alexishaselberger.com.
Okay. I'm going to put it.
Hard to spell. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put it in the show notes too. No worries.
Yeah. But if people go there, they can sign up for the wait list as well.
Okay. Perfect.
Page there. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. I have a question that I close out with everyone that comes on the show.
Yeah.
What skill from corporate America has helped you most as an entrepreneur?
Interesting. So I honestly think for me, it's keeping business hours. Because I think that when we're entrepreneurs, it's very easy to let the work take over more of the balance than you would have otherwise wanted. Because, often we're working from home, right? So there's no separation. Often, and we have more of a sense of kind of obligation to ourselves and to our families, right? Because we're the only one bringing that, bringing in what's happening, right? So it's all on us. And we also are typically doing what we want to be doing for work. So we just have all of these ideas, right? And we're like, I want to do this. I want to make my website better, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's been really about sort of maintaining business hours. I don't check my email on the weekends typically. I don't check my email in the evenings. And I'm sure that I miss some stuff sometimes, but for me, that's super important. And that's kind of what I took from, I don't know if that's like a skill from corporate, but it's kind of a,
it's a mindset.
Yeah.
It's a mindset for sure. Especially since you said like when we're working on our own business, it's usually stuff we like to do or we're wanting to do it or wanting to do more of it. And just like, oh, let me do one more thing. I really like that perspective.
Yeah.
I love asking this question. I get such a variety of answers and they're all fantastic.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm going to have to go listen to all the rest of them.
I get like a wide range and they're all really super helpful. It's good things for me to like keep in mind,
Yeah. Awesome.
So, okay. Well, thank you so much, Alexis. I really appreciate you joining today. And I'll put in the show notes, like we said, alexishaselberger.com. Are there any other places where the audience can reach you or find you, or is that the best one?
That's probably the best. And then my website, LinkedIn is where I interact the most and post things as well. So people can find me there. There aren't a lot of Alexis Haselberger.
Right. But I'll link that too. I'll link
pretty easy to find. But and then people can sign up for my newsletter as well. You mentioned you read my blog too.
Yeah.
You can sign up for that at my website also.
Okay. I love it. It's different perspectives from what you normally might find. So I really enjoy them.
Thanks. Well, thanks so much for having me on. It was a really fun conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Alexis. I loved all of the tips and information that she shared around time management and how to really optimize and use what works for you. So knowing what your habits are at which times of the day. And I really liked the part about kind of recapping your day at the end and knowing what to do starting the next day. You typically start by doing it in the morning, and I'm really curious to try that too. the approach of closing out the day by looking at what I have the next morning. That might help to turn my brain off a little bit more at night. So I hope you enjoyed this episode with Alexis. If you want to hear more, you can visit alexishaselberger.com. I will have her information in the show notes. If you'd like to reach out to me at any time, I'd love to hear from you at mary@thetransitionscollective.com. And if you'd like to stay informed about what we're doing with the community and interview releases and other information that we have to share, I'd love for you to visit thetransitionscollective.com/community to sign up and get notified. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon. Bye.